Safe, clean, and family-friendly. Just a few terms we'd never use to describe Squanch Games' new first-person shooter, High on Life. But that's exactly why we've been excited to play the game. Hey there, friends, it's Kodiak here. Welcome back to Legacy Gaming. Today, we go on an adventure through the mind of Justin Roiland and reveal if we think High on Life is worth your time. Squanch Games creator Justin Roiland has become a staple in the adult animation industry. Most notable for his shows like Rick and Morty and The Solar Opposites, he turned his attention to the gaming world, attempting to capture that lightning in a bottle once again for new players and existing fans alike. His unapologetic storytelling brings you in and out of the narrative. One moment you're trying to rescue the entire human race from enslavement, and the next you're filing paperwork discussing with the alien locals how much they hate their jobs. It's this yin and yang approach inspired by British-style storytelling that snaps you out of the momentary chaos to crack a joke but doesn't interrupt the flow of the overall experience, and if anything, enhances it. Now, I want to be clear and set expectations early. There are no talent trees, no levels to grind, no crafting, and no reputation to unlock within this game. High on Life is simply put one hell of a hilarious journey that puts players smack dab in the middle of the action to save the human race. We realized pretty quick that High on Life was going to be a wild ride, and I mean right from the start. The character selection screen, things are already off the rails. Yes, you're seeing that correctly, lines on a mirror. Not something we condone, but this is Roiland to a T. Tell a story and throw in the shock factor, leaving the viewers not quite sure how they feel about what's happening on the screen. The game recruits the player-turned-bounty hunter on a mission to defeat an alien cartel who wants to use the human race as a means to get high. Yes, you heard that right. You'll warp between beautiful alien worlds, blast your way through waves of enemies, and meet a wide array of creatures, both friend and foe, all while in the good company of your Gatlians, or talking guns. The Gatlians provide most of the voice lines in the game and usher in humor at some of the least expected moments, which makes it all the more hilarious. You'll receive everything from environmental context clues, snarky suggestions on how to defeat enemies, and even completely unrelated dialogue just because, well, they can. As you build out your arsenal of Gatlians, they'll start to converse with each other, which is always worth a listen.
Let's just stop at G3, and then we'll never have to see each other again. No holidays, no celebrations, no birthdays, no anniversaries, nothing. That's not what we want!
The Gatlians are the stars of this game, there's no question about that. They're unique, multi-dimensional, interesting, with personalities to match. They really drive the whole experience forward. You'll encounter 6 weapons in total, none of which are the same in any way. I had fun with every weapon, every mod against every enemy. Player's introduction to the Gatlians is Kenny, your basic goop pistol, with a simple aim-down sight and a special ability that fires a blob of goop. You'll use this to launch enemies into the air, disrupt their movements, and after equipping a mod, continuously keep them in the air until defeated. The ability also doubles as a traversal tool to help move large levers and doors throughout the worlds, opening areas up, allowing you to explore and progress. The gunplay as a whole isn't anything to overanalyze here. When you shoot, things go boom. It feels good, plain and simple. The gunplay isn't the focus. It's the characters brought to life by the developers' overly sarcastic and borderline humor. Each weapon you eventually acquire has 4 possible upgrades that decrease reload time, increase ammo capacity, decrease special charge time, and enhance special abilities. Now, I'm personally a huge fan of Roiland's work. Seeing it come to life through weapons that constantly criticize me as I play was a special experience I thoroughly enjoyed. There are some surprises we won't spoil for you, but when the gang's together, the banter is nothing short of Roiland scripting at its finest. Unlike the guns, enemies are really nothing to gush over. In fact, most are basic and simple fodder to shoot at, but enemies are just one part of the equation. When you factor in the gunplay and environments, I would say the lack of enemy diversity really didn't bother me. I don't recall a specific enemy as memorable or a clear standout, but I also never found myself hating a certain enemy either. It's a good balance and ensures that nothing outshines the real stars, the Gatlians. Enemies don't have health bars, so we have to use other clues, in this case their appearance, to help us track the combat situation. As you whittle them down, enemies begin to lose armor, eventually standing bare naked and ready for the takedown. Harder enemies naturally have more armor and take longer to defeat. As you ramp up the difficulty, this subtle yet critical visual cue plays an important factor in how you navigate through oncoming waves of enemies. Focus firing a fully armored enemy that is closer may not be the play if there are other naked targets ready for execution. It's nothing revolutionary, but it was a fun mechanic nonetheless. Bosses, on the other hand, have a more traditional health bar system. In order to free humanity, you'll need to take down each of the 7 bosses within the game, which of course, we're not going to spoil. On these missions, dubbed bounties, you'll work your way through new environments and punish the goons that get in your way, and once defeated, harvest a trophy from the crime lord's corpse. While entertaining and fun, these boss fights weren't really groundbreaking. They did include a mechanic or two, and you did have to take that into account, but as far as overall boss encounters go, nothing stood out as incredible, with the exception of maybe one boss. Luckily, you do feel like you've accomplished something after each major fight, claiming a trophy and moving on to the next target. Now, a true Roiland experience isn't complete without some portals, and I'm happy to report we got them. Your Bounty 5000 allows quick transport between your home and a location of your choosing. As you accept the bounty, you'll unlock a new location to portal to. Once unlocked, you can travel freely between them. Occasionally, you'll want to double back, but this is usually in the name of exploration in order to find secrets such as new dialogue or chests. I was glad to see this element make its way into the game. I'm a fan of fast travel systems, and in a space-themed game, you gotta have a way to get around a universe. As you play, you'll unlock a variety of ways to move about your environment. Specific to your armor, you'll have slide and boost and a jetpack. These complement the gameplay nicely, and the game doesn't punish you for using them incorrectly. You just fall and try again. You also have the ability to hover, which comes in handy for those enemies behind the slightest amount of cover. The jetpack is one I recommend you upgrade early, as you can go higher and for longer, making vertical traversal a breeze. Your Gatlians do also come with some of their own tools that can be used to manipulate your environment, but well, we'll just let you explore those for yourself. I didn't find myself having to rely on these too much, but having them available when I needed to save on jetpack fuel was great. Now let's take a step into the strange and talk about the warp system, and this is where things get super fun, and dare I say, experimental. Throughout your journey, you'll come across warp crystals. These are obtained by defeating a wave of enemies in an area. Their ship that they warped in on will allow you to go in there and loot the warp crystal, and off you go. In town, you can exchange these crystals for warp discs. Now, warp discs enable you to bring in a variety of completely unrelated gameplay mechanics at a designated warp point. These don't appear to have any gameplay impact other than for your own enjoyment, and introduce more of that shock factor we talked about earlier. For example, here we choose the movie theater warp disc. It warps in an entire movie theater, and the developers fully licensed a 90-minute movie that you can sit and watch, all while listening to the commentary of 3 aliens watching alongside you. It's an absolute riot, made better by all of the little details the team manages to squeeze into the experience. Might I suggest you read all of the movie posters? It's bits like this that had us absolutely rolling throughout our gameplay. Unexpected, nonsensical, and downright stupid. But this is what is so beloved by Roiland fans, and we can say the warp disc system is definitely one of our favorite parts of the game. Again, we don't want to ruin all of the surprises, just know that warp discs add a fun additional layer to the game that is super fun to interact with. All of this fits nicely together when placed within the environments creatively woven in by the team. The devs did a great job creating gorgeous and unique spaces. From the graffiti-laden high-rises of Blim City to the overgrown foliage of Zephyr's Paradise, I felt traversal very naturally and logically fit the spaces. There weren't any unnecessary layers of complications or barriers that got in my way. It was easy to see a large portion of zones from just a few spots on the map, which allowed you to appreciate everything the developers had created. Enemies and NPCs were themed perfectly per their environments, and several of the objectives in the zone required you to interact with and save some of the locals. This was a great way to mix up combat and dialogue and really brought some depth to each of the zones. I'll admit, I found myself occasionally just losing myself in the landscapes I was immersed in, a sign of a well-designed and implemented element that I just thoroughly enjoyed. Finally, let's just talk about some of the things with the game that players might not like, mainly replayability. This is where I started to have some issues. At first, I thought maybe I wasn't doing something right or I missed some sort of trigger, but I started to realize once you're done with the story, that's really it. After you've cleared out enemies, they don't respawn. You can go back to grind out the ridiculous amount of chests, but I'm not sure why you would. It's questionable why you would ever go around collecting chests for coins or collectibles if there's no more game to unlock. Again, I may be missing something huge here, but all that extra coin to upgrade your weapons isn't really worth anything if there are no enemies to shoot. The only thing keeping me from exploring was to seek out a few more warp crystals to exchange for those warp discs we just talked about. The content is truly worth seeking out for that last bit of enjoyment that's different from anything else in the game. Now, to be clear, replayability isn't necessary within a game. Games like this don't often need to be replayable to be good, but it is something that a lot of players will care about. This brings me to my biggest gripe, the $60 price tag. I played through the story in a little over 6 hours, mix in some side content and maybe some chest hunting. You could probably squeeze 10 hours out of the game, but for $60, you shouldn't have to. This falls drastically short of my expectations. I would expect to see something in this content range to be priced around $30, maybe $40, and it would be a no-brainer. But it's a hard pill to swallow if you're looking to maximize playtime on a budget, which leads us to the question, is it worth your time? Without a doubt, I can say I thoroughly enjoyed my experience. With his proven comedy track record, Roiland and the crew at Squanch Games really nailed the experience, bringing you into the narrative and constantly keeping you engaged in the dialogue. However, I just can't get over the $60 price tag for the mere 6 to 10 hours of gameplay that you get. And for that reason, High on Life might be worth your time. So there you have it, our review of High on Life. The game is available right now on PC and Xbox for $60, but we highly recommend picking it up on sale or as part of Game Pass. If you found this worth your time review helpful or enjoyable, do me a solid and hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing. Finally, if you want to support the channel, how about picking up a piece of Legacy Gaming merch? Our first ever collection is available to buy right now on our website at legacygaming.gg/shop. You can pick up a shirt, hoodie, or hat, and all the proceeds go back into helping build our channel. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.